Welcome to High School Rewind's 4A Classification Football Preview Show. I am Dusty Lister. Thanks for joining us. Pleased to be joined by Dane Stewart, and we're going to go through the 4A classification, all the regions, the top teams, the top players, and really what you can expect from our coverage this year, which Dane is just going to continue to get better.
That's right. We're excited to bring you, the most games out of anyone in the entire state every week. Guaranteed we're going to be out there on the gridiron covering your kids, your friends, even yourselves, and bringing the 2014 high school football season to you here on High School Rewind.
Absolutely. And the best part is you don't have to sit down for 3 hours and try to suffer through bad commentary and everything that can happen with that. With High School Rewind, we go from play to play. You do have commentary, but it's just to help keep things going for you, and even graphics to keep you in the middle of the game, and you can enjoy all of the plays and not have to worry about all the delays.
That's right. It's absolutely fantastic, and excited to do it for you one more time.
So after our PSA, let's get right into this with the 4A preview. Dane, last year, which it has been for the last number of years, was all about the Timpview Thunderbirds. Yeah. This was a team that at the beginning of the year, we had a couple of their games. They didn't look to be at their best. But what makes good coaches and good teams good is they recognize their weaknesses. Enter Britton Covey, and all of a sudden the whole world changes for the Timpview Thunderbirds. And we had the game against Alta, his first start, where he torched the Hawks, and he never looked back.
That's right. I mean, that game was supposed to be close, and no offense, but it just wasn't. Britton Covey absolutely was a phenom last year. Last year, his first year starting, he started picking up offers from D1 schools. Pretty impressive when you can do that, especially given his size. He's not the tallest kid out there on the football field, but he is athletic. And I'll tell you the thing that's impressive about Britton Covey. When I watched him last year, you see him and you're like, he doesn't have the strongest arm out of anyone in 4A. But go look at his touchdown to interception ratio. A very intelligent player. He may not have the strongest arm, but he knows where to put the football. He's not going to make bad decisions, and that was so key last year in their championship run. Even the state championship game against East, did not turn the ball over, was very, very smart in the way he managed that game, and absolutely took it to a very, very good East team.
An East team that was chock full of D1 talent, and Timpview always is as well. They're going to lose Isaiah Nakua and a couple of these other guys, but they return Gabe Reed, they return Mr. Kafusi, the last Kafusi, if you were, and so many guys coming back for Timpview. They are the favorite in 4A, and they should be.
Yeah, for sure. And, last year, I think in our preview show, I picked East. I didn't think Timpview was going to be able to do it. And the way the season started, I felt pretty good about that. Yeah. But as you mentioned, enter Britton Covey, and it was, gone from there. And really, he's the kind of kid that he's versatile enough. He's kind of like a Baron Gaikowski. Wow, I was going to say Gajkowski. That wouldn't have been good. Gaikowski, he has that dual nature to him, accounts for so much of their offense. And you mentioned, of course, he has Gabe Reed coming back, also has Tristan Bradley coming back in the backfield to provide some support for him. But really a kid that is intelligent in the way he manages the game, always going to be physical, Timpview is. Expect that again this season when you have that type of athleticism in the backfield. Boy, it just looks to be their year again.
And with Coach Whittingham, they're always going to have a tough defense.
That's right.
They have so many guys, and that's where Gabe Reed comes into play. That young man is absolutely outstanding, and we expect him to have a very, very big year. Well, Dane, outside of Timpview, let's talk about some of the teams we can expect. Who are some of the teams we expect to return to prominence, and some of the teams we can expect maybe a sleeper or two?
I think it's going to be a really fun year in 4A, just because you mentioned Timpview and how dominant they've been the last couple of years. Another team that's been dominant has been East. But you talk about losing talent. East may be the team that has lost the most talent out of anyone from last year to this year. They return Christian Falau.
Yeah.
And no offense to anyone else, but I mean, you think about it, they lose Preston Curtis, they lose Isaac Valles, Ula Tula Tau, Joe Tukuafu. I mean, the list goes on and on of the players that were key players. Corey Rush, key players for the Leopards who are not going to be there this year. I think they're still going to be very competitive in Region 6 because everyone in Region 6 lost talent. But I think it's kind of Timpview and everybody else. I think it's going to be wide open and a lot of fun.
It should be a lot of fun, especially underneath. I hate to do that. They say underneath Timpview because Timpview returns so much. Coach Madich is going to have a really big task at hand. Really, this is going to be one of the best coaching jobs he's done. Remember, he was at Park City. He resurrected that program and had to go through the same thing where every year he thought, okay, this is the year where where Park City had one good year and it will go away just like they did in the early 2000s. But Coach Madich was very consistent what he did. We expect the same thing with him with East.
Yeah, and talking about schools that may be able to surprise this year, I'll give you a couple because I didn't
Okay.
really address that. I think Orem's going to be very strong again this year. They return a lot of talent. They lose some good talent, but they return a lot of talent as well. The Skyline Eagles, I think they're going to be very, very good. There's a lot of good teams in 4A that they played a lot of underclassmen last year. So
did.
you get some experience, and you hope that pays off a year or two down the road. I think Spanish Fork is going to be very, very tough
that's a
in
good
that
dark
Region
horse.
8. Yeah, that's going to be a very, very good team. And even Wasatch, I think, last year you were big on Wasatch, thought that they could make the playoffs their first year in 4A. They were just out of
They
that playoff picture.
almost got there.
But I think this year they're going to be able to be there. I think they return a lot of key guys for them. The schedule sets up nicely for them a little bit. I do think there's going to be some fun. And even, here's another one. I think the Box Elder Bees could make the playoffs. And, they were close last year on tripping up Logan late in the season, almost pulled out that victory against the Grizzlies. I think that's a team that could be very, very tough, make the playoffs out of Region 5.
That should be very interesting. And 4A is going to be open. We can go region by region. And Region 5 is going to be very interesting, as you were just mentioning. So much talent gone. Logan unloads a bunch of talent. A lot of different changes going on there. Mountain Crest was very young.
Yep.
Coach Wooten is an outstanding coach. They'd be coming up. Skyview made the playoffs, had to go against Timpview in the second round. But it could be an interesting team as well.
You still haven't mentioned the team that's going to win Region 5. Dane's stamp of approval goes to the Roy Royals.
I knew you were gonna
They
go with that.
return everybody from last year's team. Let's go down the list of who returns from Roy. You have Baby T, Ituati, I believe. I don't remember how to say it. I apologize right now. He could beat me up, so I apologize to him. You have Matty Matatia. You have Tyler Skidmore, the quarterback, was absolutely fantastic. Nate Jones, Cody Hobbs, and Logan LaRose, all of them, their top 3 leading receivers from last year, all come back. That's a wide open offense for Roy. You mentioned a lot of those teams that may be losing talent.
Yeah.
Mountain Crest returns a lot, but Roy returns nearly everybody from last year. They are going to be tough. Coach Fernandez up in Roy, I think he may have Roy on the way to a region championship.
Coach Fernandez, remember, he won state championships with
Yep.
Northridge when he stopped the dynasty of the Skyline Eagles, and then went out and did a nice job of rebuilding Woods Cross, and now making things happen at Roy. Coach Fernandez is one of the guys we really don't talk about a whole lot in the coaching, and we'll get to some of these changes in coaching too. We have a lot of names resurfacing within the 4A classification, which will be a lot of fun.
A lot of 4A schools happy with their new hires. We'll tease that.
And that's more in the southern part of the 4A classification. Region 6, we've mentioned, absolutely wide open. They lose. Everybody turns over almost every roster. And the one that's going to be surprising, we were talking about them East, we talked about it at length, but a traditional power within Region 6, which should be a lot of fun, is going to be Highland.
Yeah, and you mentioned lose a lot of talent. They lose, first of all, Brian Monet. The kid goes to Michigan, offensive lineman, defensive lineman. If you don't think those positions are important, there's nowhere else that's more important than when you run that wing T offense, that option offense. But you mentioned some of the other kids they lose. They lose Jamal Greer, their quarterback, of course, Vilis Sakona, lose him. Adam Weber, a 4-year starter at linebacker, gone. And then, of course, Ben Bergeson, who I think was one of the better corners in the entire state last year, gone. But they do return some talent. Thomas Pembroke is back. That's going to be big for them to have, a back who's familiar with that offense. And then also Stanley Satani. He had a big game when they played Bountiful last year and had a couple of games where he was really big. He's going to be back in that offense as well. I think Highland, they'll probably be in the top half of that region. Still going to be a very tough team, but they do lose a lot.
Coach Benson does a terrific job year in
Phenomenal.
and year out. Who's a super team we can expect from Region 6?
It's tough. I think Woods Cross and Bountiful, obviously.
I think Woods Cross is a good one too.
Yeah, a lot of kids, they lose a lot of kids, but they have a lot of kids coming back, and the system's in place. I think that's the key is, talking about Woods Cross, there finally seems to be some stability in the football program, and what a good thing for Wildcat fans to have. It seems like for so long, talent, but maybe not a lot of stability. I think that's fixing itself. And Bountiful, of course, Coach Wall, what else can you say?
Been there forever.
He's made the playoffs for my entire life. And, absolutely phenomenal job at Bountiful. Let me talk about a coaching change real quick. And I don't know if this team makes the playoffs this year, but keep an eye on the Clearfield Falcons. Brand new head coach, Andre Dyson. That name should sound familiar, going back to his alma mater. I don't know that this year is the year, but I think he's going to turn that program into a more competitive program.
I think so too, and I think anybody who's ever committed to these programs, that's really where a change takes place. You have a coach that's really committed to what's going to happen there and has a plan to get it done. And Andre Dyson, the young man, or guy that played in the NFL for so long, should be able to get things done. All right, now let's go into some change. Region 7. This is where my dark horse resides, in the Corner Canyon Chargers. Coach Eck did an outstanding job last year, power running football, and had so many underclassmen, almost everybody. They all come back. It's year 2. He knows exactly. It's his second year being a head coach ever, so he got his feet wet and got to understand what's going on. Corner Canyon, to me, it could be the champion in Region 6 and would be my preseason pick to do so.
You know, they finished 5-1 in region play, 3-way tie for first, and their only loss was on a missed PAT, if I recall correctly. They were that close going undefeated last year. They return everybody. It's going to be a good year for Corner Canyon. I agree with you. I think they're going to be a favorite in that Region 7. Tell you what, a game to watch for. They have to travel to Orem this year. And that's going to be the game that really decides that entire region. Going to have huge implications in terms of playoff seeding and all of that when Corner Canyon travels to Orem.
Here's a dark horse team, an absolute dark horse team within this region, the Mountain View Bruins.
Yeah.
Coach
yeah.
Louis Wong, you remember him? Coach, an outstanding coach at Timpview. After all of the controversy and everything else, here he is just 2 years later, coming back into coaching. He goes to Mountain View in an open enrollment district. He could turn that program around. And not only is he there, he brought a whole bunch of coaches and a lot of stability to the Bruins, and they asked him to just focus on the kids and do that, and he's got a lot of help there. Mountain View, that's a sleeper team.
And you know, one of the interesting things is I was looking at Mountain View, who they lose, who comes back. Let me give you a couple names. Watch for them under Coach Wong. I'm telling you, he took that job with a smile on his face. And let me give you a couple names why. One, Jaron Flaker, returning the quarterback. This is a kid that has some hybridness to his play. Coach Wong's going to love that. And the second one is Jake Holland. Played last year as just a sophomore, kind of a running back / receiver. You'll see him line up both places. He's going to be a junior. So you have some young talent there, some athleticism that Wong can use. You think about his Timpview days, I'm sure he's very excited to get his hands on that Mountain View team and make them, as you mentioned, a dark horse and a competitor in Region 7.
And then you have Skyline, who we talked about a little bit earlier. That should be very good there as well. All right, Region 6. And here's another name surfacing back into the coaching ranks just 2 years later. Coach Tony McGeary. He's back, and he's now coaching the Provo Bulldogs. Yeah. They have been less than successful in the last few years. This is a team in 2005, when we first came in, was a fun team to watch with Austin Alder and a lot of these talented athletes they had there in Provo. Provo in general has been down in most of their sports as their attendance has dropped and different things. They got new facilities, have all these things going on. And now Coach McGeary, who has won a state championship in 2011 or 2010 with Lone Peak, is now the head coach at Provo.
Yeah, and not to be disrespectful to the Bulldogs, but the best thing about last year was probably the new turf. It looks absolutely fantastic.
Whole new stadium.
It was a tough year for the Bulldogs last year. You mentioned, McGeary coming back, and absolutely, I think he's going to do some really good things. You look at what he was able to do at Lone Peak, and if you can take that down to Provo, I think that's a program that could be, building. Obviously, it's kind of the Clearfield thing. I don't know that this year's really the year, but they have a good coach in there who knows what he wants to do and can really, start to build that program step by step.
And one thing about McGeary going to Lone Peak, most people don't remember because of all the success the Knights have had. That was a program in turmoil when he took that over as well. And here's a program really has just been a bottom dweller for the last little bit in Provo. I'm excited to see what he can do because Timpview sits in that region. They are the Kings. We've talked about the T-Birds. Here's an interesting bottom part. When I say bottom, I mean location-wise in this region. Spanish Fork, Maple Mountain, and Salem Hills. Salem Hills has the fastest growing prospect I have ever seen in the summer, and Mr. Porter Gustin. This young man is their starting quarterback. He got hurt at the end of last year. We did not get a chance to see him play quarterback. He's a 5-star recruit as a linebacker, which is going to be a lot of fun. And Salem Hills had one of the most fun games that we had a chance to cover last year in a come-from-behind win against Springville, who is the other part of this bottom part of the location part of this region, which should be a lot of fun. But Salem Hills, Spanish Fork, Maple Mountain, and Springville makes for a lot of fun in those 4 teams.
It sure does. And there's not a better way to describe Porter Gustin than the fastest rising recruit. I never covered Salem Hills last year, but I don't remember hearing anything about this kid going into last year.
He broke his arm in practice. That's all I knew.
And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, he's got offers from USC, and if you can name it, they've offered him. And what a great story for this young man. And you mentioned plays quarterback and linebacker. I looked at him and saw his measurables 6'5", I think 220s. Like, that is a big,
and his spark rating
kid.
was high, and that's the Nike rating, by the way.
Yeah, he absolutely tore it up at camps, and schools are just drooling over this kid. And it's going to be really fun to see how he can kind of lead the Salem Hills squad. That was a team that wasn't bad last year, of course, finished 4th overall in that region, returning a few guys off of last year's squad. Can they make kind of that next step up into the 3rd or maybe the 2nd seed even out of that Region 8? Keep your eyes on Salem Hills.
And watch for Mr. Money down with Spanish Fork. That'll be a lot of fun. And a lot of guys coming back for Springville as well. That's a team to keep an eye on as well. Dane, let's go ahead and go to the prediction part of our classification preview show. Who's winning 4A this year?
Well, I was, in case you haven't watched our 5A yet, I was safe with 5A, and I might be safe with 4A this year as well, just because we mentioned you hate to go Timpview and everyone else, but that's kind of the feel of what it is, just because of the way that program is being ran right now and the status of where it was last year. I will say this, though. Let's put a little asterisk next to that. T-Bird fans, enjoy this season, because if the winds keep blowing the way they are, this may be your last year in 4A. I think Timpview, however, will win the 4A state championship.
I completely agree. So much returning talent and a classification which is very solid beneath that. There's not that team I feel like offensively can threaten Timpview, which has been the situation for a little while. They had some outstanding games against Highland, but that was a team that physically could match them, and I just don't see that this year. Coach Whittingham could be putting, in my opinion, or our opinion, we put another ring on his finger, another championship heading up to Timpview on Thunderbird Drive. That'd be a lot of fun. Thank you for watching High School Rewind's 4A preview show. For Dane Stewart, Bill Francis, and Vince Francis, I am Dusty Litster. Thanks for joining us.